You know, we talk a lot about bringing new members into Freemasonry, but what about some of those guys who came into the fraternity and for one reason or another had to step away? How do we get them back? We talk a lot about membership. In a member-based organization, membership is your lifeblood. And a lot of times we focus on bringing new men into the fraternity, which is wonderful. But for a lot of men, they'll come into the fraternity and then something happens. Life happens. They have a kid. Maybe they lose a job. Maybe they get upset with something that happened in a lodge or a valley meeting. There's many, many reasons why a man might step away from the fraternity. When that happens, what do we do and how do we handle it? Well, I want to explain that to you, and I'm going to give you some great examples from a brother who absolutely has the secret formula. But first, before we go any further, make sure you subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and please drop a comment below. Shout out your lodge, your valley, wherever you're from. We want to hear from you. Brother Bob Weatherford, he works for the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, and he is a regional membership manager. And what he does all day, every day, is he finds men who have, for some reason or another, had to step away from the fraternity, and he brings them back. He restores their membership, whether they left because they stopped paying their dues or because they moved or for whatever reason. However they got away, Bob Weatherford brings them back. He has brought back over 5,000, that's a 5 with 3 zeros after it, Scottish Rite Masons to the fraternity since 2017. 5,000. And while we were at the Conference of Grand Masters in Seattle, Bob was there, I was there, and one of Bob's true success stories was there. Brother Brian Pulling, who is now the Junior Grand Warden of the state of South Dakota. This is an unbelievable story, and we've got Bob and Brian here to talk about it. This is a very special story because Bob handles restoration of Scottish Rite Masons and Masons in general who have let their dues lapse or who have drifted away from the fraternity for one reason or another. When you restore a brother, tell me what the process is usually. You find out a guy who's no longer a part of the fraternity for one reason or another, and then what happens?
I email first, and then I get into conversation with them, and I just ask, hey, what happened? And what can we do to make it right? And when they respond, whether they know it or not, they open the door for me to talk to them, and I ask questions, and I don't mention. They don't need me to tell them they've suspended. They don't need that. They know. They don't need to tell they've suspended for non-payment of dues. They know. So I don't mention that. I just ask how the guy is. I want to talk to the man, see why he left, what we can do to make it right. And most people respond to that rather than just being somebody that sends them a dues invoice and that's the only time anybody contacts them.
And you and I have looked at these various ways over the year, and you correct me if I'm wrong. There's usually one of 3 reasons a guy leaves. One, it's a financial issue. Something happens, loses a job or whatever, becomes financial. Second is a personal issue that becomes a financial one. You maybe got sick,
right?
Put somebody through college, something like that nature. And then the third one is they move and they go someplace different. So when you get that approach and when you talk to a brother and try and welcome him to come back, what is the usual response that folks are giving? Is it still those 3 buckets kind of?
Well, if I were to send them the question in written form, it would fall into those 3 categories. But when you ask and when you're talking on the phone, normally they're going to say, I wasn't getting what I thought of for my money. I wasn't getting anything out of it. I wasn't able to participate. It just, I got in an argument with Joe at the wash dishes. Yeah, I don't even focus on why they left. I focus on how I can make whatever happened with them better. If they want to tell me and talk to me about why they left, I listen. But that really, my focus is making the future better and to go that way. I try not to focus on the past, but if they won't tell me, I listen.
Do you know how many men you've brought back at this point? Like total? It's in the thousands, right?
There's I would have to say total. There's more than 5,000, maybe less than 6,000.
So somewhere between that. So this one's one man.
Yeah.
So this is a machine brought back over 5,000 Scottish Rite Masons to the fraternity. And one of those men is Junior Grand Warden, 33rd Street.
One of the very first of those men.
Brother Brian Pullen. And Brother Brian, and we've gotten to know each other a little bit as we've traveled and gone to the same kinds of events. So you were one of the first guys when young Bobby Weatherford first started in the membership services department and was just learning to dial the phone. He called you. And so what happened that you got away from Scottish Rite?
So what happened, the reason that I got away is that I forgot to notify everybody that I was moving.
Okay.
And so that was, I moved and just Scottish Rite never caught up with me again. So when I got into Sioux Falls, I'd moved kind of back home again. I was downstairs and I was like, hey, would like to get back involved with Scottish Rite again. Well, Bob happened to be down there at his desk and they said, go talk to him. And so when I got a hold of Bob, we started talking. We got me restored and got me put back in, which then allowed me to get into the fellows program later on, a couple of years later, which lit a fire under me like no other.
Yeah.
And since then, I have gone through and I've worked through Scottish Rite. I've become a venerable master in my valley, jumped into Grand Lodge, and now I'm representing the Masons of my state.
And Maynard, he's active enough that he's even volunteered and on his own dime came and volunteered as a KSA guy at session.
Yeah,
So-
one of the biennials.
Yeah,
Yep.
he sure did.
And what was now the Fellows Program for brothers who don't know? This is a unique program. It was started by Grand Commander Ronald A. Seal, who's our immediate past Grand Commander, and it continues under Grand Commander Jim Cole. And this is basically some of our newer, or I don't want to say newer because sometimes guys have been in for a little while, they just haven't been super active. But guys who are recently kind of getting their legs under them in Scottish Rite leadership, and they come to Washington, D.C., they sit down, they have a good chat with the Grand Commander, and it's a great dialogue. And then that dialogue continues when all the fellows go back to their home valleys. And you were one of those. What was it about that program that got you excited?
So I think one of the big things that got me excited is we went to Omaha and went to the leadership seminars there and the leadership conference. We got into a breakout session. We're talking about ways that we can get guys back to lodge. And I heard something behind me and I turned around and there was Grand Commander Seal sitting on the floor next to me, listening to our conversation intently. And I was just like, okay, if he's that close to us, then I need to be closer to this organization.
Yeah.
And so that got me fired up about it, knowing that everybody was that supportive and wanted to be that much a piece of it. And it's like, if they want that, then I'm going to give it to them with everything that I have.
So you're about as active as you can get in Scottish Rite and in Blue Lodge. What is it in Masonry that makes you want to give so much of your personal time, and as Bob said, your personal treasure to be a part of this organization? When at one point you had taken that, you had gotten away from it, something in you called you back.
Yeah, I think it was when I got back, I got around a really good group of guys, a really good core group of good men. And it inspired me to be better, right? I mean, we always talk about making good men better in Masonry. And really the way I explain it to guys is that if you're around men of good character and just good individuals, that starts to rub off on you. And it started to rub off on me. And then I got around my Scottish Rite brothers, and knowing that I had those guys having my back gave me everything I needed to jump in with both feet.
In the Grand Line in South Dakota, South Dakota is a state that you're really spread out to travel, and that's got to be a big challenge geographically for Grand Line officers to handle that. What's happening in South Dakota? What is and I don't want to take the thunder of your Grand Master, obviously you're the Junior Grand Warden, but just from your perspective as the Junior Grand Warden, what is happening in South Dakota?
So what's happening in South Dakota is we really are trying to be at the leading edge of a lot of things. We have gotten into some programs early on, helped to see if those would be a good thing for our jurisdiction. We understand that in our jurisdiction, it's not a one-size-fits-all. The one side of our state is more rancher. We have one side of the state that's more farming and cosmopolitan. And so we really have to find a way to find something that will work a little bit for everybody. And that's what we've been trying to do this last year. We really have gotten some things going. There's a momentum again. People are feeling good about the Grand Lodge, and they're feeling that they're there to help them.
I would also like to give South Dakota props, because the Grand Lodge of South Dakota, for the last 4 or 5 years, they saw the success we were having with our restoration program, and every Grand Master in all that time has rolled over the edict that they were following the same model. I use the word restoration, and we even named the program the Restoration Program, because it's much more than just getting reinstated. It's we have to get the man involved, get the Valley involved in engaging that man, because if the Valley doesn't in turn engage him, all they're going to become is a second-time loser. You know, two-time loser, you lost the guy again. Right back out the door. So we got to. That's why it's a restoration of a relationship, restoring the relationship rather than just reinstating the guy. We're restoring, giving the Scottish Rite a fresh start to try to make it right the second time, and giving the man a fresh start with the Scottish Rite. So for me, it's a matter of healing rather than just straight up reinstating.
That's Bob Weatherford, 33rd degree, along with Brother Brian Pulling, 33rd degree, who is also the Junior Grand Warden of the great state of South Dakota. And that is just an incredible story. And if Bob can do it, he says this all the time, if he can do it, so can you. Think about some of those guys that you were first in lodge with, whether they were in your catechism class, whether they were in your Scottish Rite reunion, whether you met them at a York Rite meeting. Maybe they were a De Malay brother that joined the lodge roughly the same time you did, and then for some reason or another, they just vanished. Reach out to that brother. Don't talk about dues. Don't talk about anything other than, hey, we miss you and we would love to have you come back. Because as Bob said in the interview there, that's the real secret. Show these brothers that we miss them and we want them to come home, whether it's coming home to the Scottish Rite or to their Blue Lodge or to the York Rite. However you bring them back, reach out to that brother that you know is missing. Think about it for a second. You know there's a guy who you came in with or you were familiar with, and he's just not there anymore. Give him a call. Stop what you're doing now. Give him a call, send him an email, shoot him a text, and I bet you will be surprised by the response that you get. Thanks for watching. I'm Maynard Edwards, 33rd degree. Don't forget, if you want to learn more about Freemasonry and you're not a Mason and you made it this far, you must have some interest. So click that link right there and we can connect you with a lodge near you. If you'd like to learn more about our lost media archive and how you can help preserve Masonic history, click that link right there. And for another great Masonic video, that link right there.